The water last
Oh,
night.
you did?
Yes.
Nice.
It was very nice this week.
No, I mean, I don't know if I'll go on it necessarily, but at least it's in the water and it's a check in the
Yeah.
box. Yeah.
One more box.
Yeah.
That is on, by the way. This is already on and working.
This?
This.
Oh, okay.
Just like intern. Bill has a list. They did it. It was a form on the website. So, as long as they're not the core staff.
I am. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this special meeting of the Town of Grizzle Board of Finance to order May 2nd, 2024, 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Meeting Room. First order on the agenda, roll call to order. Eric?
We have all members present.
The second item on the agenda, old business, discussion and possible action on fiscal year 24-25 budget. We're coming off of the public hearing. We had the opportunity to hear what everyone had to say. We also received some information from the superintendent that evening that based on where we had kind of landed the budget thus far, there's now been an additional $250,000 in revenue that needs to be budgeted and accounted for. Eric, your latest does have that in the packet, correct? Okay. Sort of like I did last meeting, I'll use the budget cycle and tonight to just offer up my opinions. Like I said, not that I expect it to be done or to influence anyone, but I think it's important that you know where I'm coming from as well as the public. But I'll offer up my opinions on where I think we should land this evening. Based on the additional $250,000 in revenue, I think that we should reinstate the assistant rec director. That I believe was $37,000. That would bring that running total down to $213,000. Last week I had the occasion to attend the rec commission meeting. We're able to kind of talk through everything. They were looking for, I think, some strategies perhaps on how to kind of navigate this budget process and how do we get that to be reinstated. Ryan forwarded us with a few alternatives on kind of some give and take. One of the questions that was asked by one of the rec commission members was whether or not the Board of Finance was looking to change the model of the rec commission and that it become a revenue-based model. And I interpreted that to mean like it was going to become a moneymaker, a for-profit with monies going into the general fund. And my response was that I didn't believe that anybody on this board had that expectation or expected that model to change, that rather what has happened in the past is that your rec programs have been self-funded. You've got this, I'll call it this magic budget, and that it's a $400,000 budget that you run on $200,000 essentially, because your rec programs, they self-fund. And my answer to the rec commission was that I think that just we look for that model to continue. It's not about making money. It's not about putting money in the general fund, but it's a great thing when you're able to run a successful program. And those programs are self-sustaining. That also helps you grow, because you're not worried about where that money's coming from. So getting back to, I guess, my list, looking at that list that Ryan provided, I looked at possibly eliminating the rec van from capital. That would put $35,000 back into that running total. So that would put us at $248,000. I don't believe that we should be using $150,000 from surplus. Certainly this early in the budget process, I don't think that that's a wise choice. we kind of end up being in the same position that we are in right now, only to a lesser extent. This could be a contentious budget year, and if we were to consider something like that, I think you'd consider it maybe after the second or the third referendum. We tend to get into a habit, I think, my opinion and my opinion only, as a board, that we try to tailor these budgets based on what we think is going to pass referendum. You know, really, I think what we need to be doing is we really need to weigh some ability to pay against what are the needs of the town. Sometimes that doesn't align, and that's kind of the biggest hurdle that we often have to kind of figure out how we're going to traverse. But in doing so, if we approach that, we're not necessarily going to put forth a budget that is going to be a slam dunk, that it's going to get passed at referendum. We're doing the responsible thing, and we're putting forth a budget that we truly believe is a balance of those other two items. So, like I said, at this juncture, I don't believe that based on that, we should be using $150,000 and setting us up for a budget shortfall next year. So taking that out of the 250, that leaves us $98,000. We had allocated and we had cut the fire marshal's vehicle down to 40,000. We received some correspondence that vehicle can be purchased brand new under the state bid for $48,000 and change, and that the cost of, I think, the radios and perhaps some lights, that was going to be about $7,000 or $7,500 and change. So it was about a difference of about $15,500. As stewards of the community's monies, I don't think that it is a wise approach that we only spend $40,000 on what could amount to be a used vehicle with 100,000 miles on it. I think that we should be buying a new vehicle from the state bid list, and I think that we need to put those monies in so that it's outfitted accordingly. So that would put that would use another 15,500, bringing that running total down to 82,500. I think that we should reinstate the road money that was taken on. I believe that was $30,000. That would bring that running total down to 52,500. And then, just as an aside, one other consideration is maybe we don't cut that wrecked vehicle. And if we make no cuts to wreck, that would bring that running balance down to 17,500. At that point, that's kind of where I trailed off. I don't have any other kind of, strong opinions on anything that I thought was worth bringing forth. But that would leave us with a balance at that point of about 17,500, and that would still put us at that 1.5 mil mark that we're currently at now. I guess one other item of note before we dig in is there was a selectmen's meeting. The selectmen did vote to reduce the line item, I believe, for the first selectman by 5,000. Is that correct, Rich?
Correct.
So when you take in FICA and all of the other stuff, what does that number end up being, Eric?
$6,240.
Okay, so if we were to follow the recommendation of the selectmen, then we would need to, tonight, as part of that process, make the appropriate motions so that that number is reduced to what their recommended level was as part of tonight's process, because as of right now, it's still going to stand at what the original number was unless we take action. And that's all I've got. So if someone else would like to talk, it's open.
Mr. Chairman, the line item that was cut 5,000, what was actually cut?
First selectman's salary. From 70,000 to 65,000, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chairman, I'd like to put forth a proposal. And before I do so, I'd just like to say that I put a lot of thought into this proposal. I think that what you brought forth aligns a lot with what I thought. And thinking of the future, I don't tend to believe that we should gut as much as we can, thinking that the people of this town don't understand what the future holds. And that they don't understand the economic situation that we're in and think that they're gonna vote it down. I think we should put it into their hands and allow them to make that decision on what they want. With that being said, I came up with a proposal that would leave us at a mill rate of 1.72 approximately. And that's, I did that because, you know, with us taking the money out of the surplus last year, we already came in at 0.6. Had we gone up last year, a small amount, we'd be doing a small amount again this year to reach that point. With that, I had proposed to reinstate the grant writer. Because for $5,000. I too thought we should put the assistant rec director back in at, I believe that was 37,310 altogether. Also taking into account the 250 from the school, I believe since they're bringing in more revenue, they should also benefit from that. So I suggested and proposing that we put back in the Chromebooks at 132.5. I also thought that we should up the fire marshal's vehicle to 55,000 to include the vehicle, the lights, and possible lettering if it comes in at that price. I thought that we should fully fund the roads also. Put the 30,000 back into the roads. And additionally, I thought that we should not use the 150,000. And then the rest of the monies that would be left over, which would be about 135,000. I would suggest that we put it back into the school budget because of the fact that with the numbers that I ran, the town budget would have to cut $105,800, and then the school budget would be 259,200, which is, you know, is double of what the town budget cuts would be. And I thought that would be fair. And again, that would leave us at 1.72. That's my thought process. And then if the town people so desire that they don't want to pay that, then at that point, we can come back and make cuts. But, you know, I think going in skeleton is the wrong move to make.
Does anyone else have any thoughts that they would like to share?
Or you want to go? Go ahead.
I actually support, I like everything the chairman said. I think that all those things. I do support the $5,000 for the grant writer. I think that's an important position in getting money back into the town. I mean, other towns have it. It pays for itself 10 times if they could concentrate on that. But I do support what Scott had. I listen to the townspeople. I understand your view on Board of Education, but at this time right now, I'm gonna go with what the chairman, and I would support the $5,000 for the grant writer.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I also forgot adding 3,000 back to the Economic Development Commission, because I was under the impression that they use that to promote the town.
I don't think we cut that.
did.
I don't,
I
You
don't-
cut it from 5,000 back to 3,000.
oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah, so I put the 2,000 back.
Okay,
And my impression was that they use that to promote the town. And we need to promote the town in order to increase our revenue.
okay. Okay. Gail, you wanted to speak?
Um, well, first of all, I think it was such a wonderful thing that we had so many people giving us input during the public hearing. It's really good to see the citizens and taxpayers engaged. And they were very understanding about the difficult process that we've been in. So I really do appreciate that. I had a couple of, I agree with most of what Scott said, except I don't want to address the rec van this year. And the reason being is that we don't have anybody certified to drive that van. And if in fact we do have a consensus to put that rec van back in, I think that everybody who works within that department needs to sign a document stating that they understand that they cannot transport any other colleagues or students in that van, and that they understand that if they do, it's outside their scope of employment. Because if there was ever an accident, we would have a very big liability with someone who's not certified driving the van when you have to be certified. So my feeling is until we can get to that point, and we just need a vehicle to transport stuff and not people, that we should continue doing what we've been doing and then revisit it next year if someone can get certified within that department, because I'd hate to create a liability. So let me just go through the things that I have in my notes. Yes, I'd like to see the assistant director in the Parks and Rec reinstituted, with the only offsetting subtraction being the van. I applaud the department for offering several other cut options, but at this point in time, I would not suggest taking advantage of any of those options. Also, I don't believe that the selectmen's salary should be cut. It was very generous and selfless of the first select person to suggest that, but frankly, we have several other people who don't have the weight on their shoulders that this person has, that are paid far more than that in the town and in all of our departments and in the school. And I just feel that that increase that was recommended by the second and third select people was well-deserved, and I think we need to keep that in place. The grant writer, I think having a line item, the $5,000 that's in there, granted, it's really covers maybe one project, or, just to be seed money to get it going, I think that's fine. 30,000 back to the roads, I agree. Do not use the $150,000 from surplus, I agree. I do not agree in reinstating the Chromebooks. My belief is that it really isn't a capital improvement item, and it should come out of the Board of Ed budget entirely. In regard to, I think I've answered all of them. Are there any other? Oh, you asked about the rec program model in regard to revenues. I guess that question was asked of you, Scott, at the meeting.
It was just whether or not there was an expectation that it was going to be a for-profit model,
Right.
as opposed to what's currently
My-
being practiced.
And I just wanted to add a comment to that, if I could. The programs are very popular, And I believe that we should see an awareness that there's children and students from other towns coming in. And I know that the fees for each program for out-of-town students is a different fee schedule. But I also feel that we need to revisit that, because remember, we're spending this money on our community's children, and granted, the programs by and large are close to covering their own cost, but we still have all the fixed costs of the staff and everything else that the townspeople pay for. So if in fact we start seeing higher numbers of out-of-town students coming in, we need to revisit the tuition or fee schedule, because we need to understand that our citizens have been very generous in supporting all of these programs, and I just don't think that it's fair to them to ask them to pay for out-of-town students to come and enjoy the rec department programs as well. In regard to where we're going to end up with the mill rate, I absolutely think we have to be at 1.5 or less. It's not so much what they will approve or not approve. We have a lot of community members who are living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of senior citizens, these taxes make or break them. And I just think that we should be cognizant of the people who are in that position and that can't afford that extra 2 or 3 tenths of a mil, because sometimes that makes a difference.
Anyone else have any thoughts they want to share with the rest of the board before we jump in?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Gail on trying to maintain a mill rate of 1.5. I also would like to see the assistant director for the recreation department return to full-time. I agree with the proposal by the selectmen to reduce the first selectman's salary by $5,000. That is still an increase of $6,837, or 11.7% of what the existing salary request was. I also agree with a lot that Scott said, and we can do it, not take the 150,000 from surplus.
Anyone else? Anything you want to share?
Nope, I mean, we have a fiscal responsibility here. We're at 1.22, so we knew we were coming back to deal with this a little more. It's not exactly where we wanted to be. There's some stuff there I agree with, some stuff I don't, so everybody's ready. I say we just get to work
Just jump in?
and,
Okay.
and start finding out where we're gonna be with the things that we really want to add back in. I know we all want to add a few things back in.
Mark, you have anything you want to?
No, I mean, that's pretty much where I am as well. You know, I think it's time to get to work and,
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to reinstate the assistant director in the rec department
Seconded.
full-time.
who's seconding?
Me.
That would include salary and all related
Right,
line
all
items.
related benefits, the health insurance, FICA, everything that's
Okay.
associated with a full-time employee.
Okay. First and second, any discussion?
And that's 37,310.
No, it's gonna be $37,039. It's gonna be an increase of 18,211 to the salary, 1485 to health insurance, 10,000
457 for pension, and 6886 for FICA.
See, so there was it, 37 what?
37,039.
039. Okay, so we have a first and second, any discussion? Here now we're gonna vote, all in favor,
Aye.
any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to rescind the vote that we made before about taking money out of surplus. I'd like to vote that we do not take anything out of surplus.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to not use the 150,000 out of surplus. Is there any discussion? Gonna vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we increase the fire marshals. What we're voting for the fire marshals truck from the 40,000 to 55, which would be an increase of 15,000.
Is that the number that we need?
I think it would be around 15.5 if you were to include all the lights and.
I think it's $55,565.08 to be exact. With the two quotes that we received,
Could you repeat that, please?
$55,565.08.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a second on that?
We do not yet. Do you
I'll
want
second
to,
that motion.
do you want to stay with your original motion?
Oh.
Rob, your motion is for 15,000 even. Do you want to stick with that motion or do
I
you
do
want to
not,
amend
I'd
that?
like to send that and up it to 15,565.
15,565 even, okay,
Oh, and 8 cents.
and 8 cents?
It'll round down.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? We're gonna vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we allocate $5,000 for the grant writer.
I'll second.
any discussion?
Just a point of discussion. You don't need us to put in any of these motions, the line item. You have the line items.
Add the line items.
Okay, great.
Any other discussion?
And Mr. Chairman, that is, Eric, an increase of 2,000, right? We're already at 3, so we're not increasing 5, we're just,
No, the grant writer had 0 in it.
oh, it was 0?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Economic Development Commission
Okay,
was.
that's, all right, thank
the other
you.
one.
Any other discussion? We're gonna vote, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to reinstate the road. Road work 30,000.
In capital?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second on the motion to reinstate the $30,000 for road monies in capital. Any discussion? Hearing none, we're gonna vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we give back $2,000 to the Economic Development Commission to bring it back to the 5,000 was originally requested.
Okay. We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, first and second, any discussion?
Discussion. Where is that on our schedule
It's
here?
in 6101 department. Line item 5202 now.
6101. And it's the line item under,
5202L.
5202L.
What did they spend in 2023?
I believe they bought some signs. The Welcome to Griswold signs. I don't know how much at this point.
So did we leave that where, Tina, were you gonna reach out perhaps and ask what their plans were for that money? So that we could
Yeah.
consider it at this meeting? How did you make out?
Really?
I mean, we didn't cut their budget, we just cut it their increase.
Yeah,
You received no response on the
We
inquiry?
cut it back to what it was. They went-
exactly. So we didn't truly cut it. We just didn't, it's the same amount that it's been last year. And of the fiscal year 24 budget, they've only spent $242 of the 3,000 that they were given. Because you don't replace signs every year. You buy a nice sign and it lasts for a while. I'd like to hear what their plan is for marketing the town before we provide money.
I certainly can reach out again.
I hate to put you on the spot, Tina, but who did you reach out to?
I had a conversation with Tom Chiog and there were a couple of meetings that were requested via email. So
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to rescind that motion due to a lack of direction by the Economic Development Committee. If I may.
I'm sorry, you wanted to,
he wants to rescind his
Rescind, I think-
motion. I think that
the
we,
second has to be rescinded.
yes, yeah, the second will have to
I'll
rescind it
rescind
also. Okay.
In light of lack
Okay,
of communication.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So our note should show that there was no action taken. Where is the rec van, please?
That's in capital.
501, it's 5725I. So I think the motion that we, in 501, 5725I, that we had originally cut it down to 35,300. I'd like to bring that down to 0.
There's just a miscommunication. So it was actually a cargo van. To replace the current cargo van. I need to do a passenger van, so liability. And honestly, if we do a field trip, we have 40+ kids. So it's actually to replace our cargo van.
Mhm.
So you need a CDL because it's a smaller van. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we didn't want to do passenger van because that's just
Right.
opens a can of worms.
Right. May I ask?
So your motion is to zero out
To
the
zero out
capital van,
the capital.
the rec van line item in capital.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I didn't hear exactly what.
To zero out
His
the.
motion is to zero out the line item for the rec van in capital, to
rec
reduce it
van
to
and
0.
capital. Zero it out.
So before we have discussion, we're gonna need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
May I ask a question? of
Absolutely.
The rec director?
Sorry for interrupting.
No. I just want to say that if this is sort of the plan for the future, to be able to transport students, we'd love to see, the beginnings of a plan mid-year before the budget season. That would be great, especially regarding someone being certified. And also to see whether, what the comparison is from purchasing a van and all the associated insurances versus retaining the bus company to do it. Because then they have the insurance and they have the certified driver. And
Yeah.
their buses just sit there when it's not the school year. So, you know, to sort of do a comparison of that expense and see what might be better for the town.
Yeah, and I definitely, with our size of our trips and passengers, would be to rent the rent the buses from the company. Well, overwhelmingly, because if we did anything, it'd have to be less than the CDL, so it'd be 10 or less, which is, I don't know, a quarter of the kids we serve. So the reason for this is our current van is the old animal control van. It's a cargo van, so it's all empty. There's a passenger seat, of course, for the driver. That's what I'm trying to replace because it's used for equipment, not children transport.
So you're okay with us revisiting that
Yeah.
next year? Okay.
Yeah, as a cargo, I would love to keep it in there. But again, I don't know. I can't predict if our van's gonna stop working.
Right,
So, because I put it in there a couple years ago.
right.
But yeah, just to make it clear, I'm not trying to transport children in any way. So,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I understand about the cuts that we want to do in Gail's opinion. I've been on the capital improvement for 2 years, and he's been asking for that. Last year was supposed to get just a used one from the senior center. That didn't come through. What he serves in the town is a great service. You heard it the other day from the people. In my opinion, I think we should be supporting that. I understand that he wants to forego it. I understand that, but in my opinion, I don't think we should. That's just my opinion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're going to vote on reducing $35,300 from line item 5725 I, Youth Center Van under the Capitol. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
1, 2. 4 to 2. Okay, motion carries.
So who is in favor? Oh, no, I didn't hear you, man. Thank you.
So where are we? Numbers.
Right now, we're at a mill rate increase of 1.44 mils.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
I would like to propose that, like to make a motion that we institute the Chromebooks at 132.5 back into the budget.
Okay, we have a first to reinstate the Chromebooks at 132,000, 500,000 in the capital. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Question. Is this gonna come back to us next year that we're gonna need these Chromebooks again? I mean, we are gonna need them, I guess that's a question of how long the ones we have do last. I understand, we talked about just putting it in their budget, but at the end of the day, the town's still paying for it one way or the other. So I guess my question is this something we're just kicking down the road? That's my question.
So, Sean, I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot to answer that. And do you have I mean, it appears in capital now, obviously, that's been a point of contention for a number of the members on the board. Do you have a plan moving forward, I guess, for successive replacements? And
Yes, we do. And as I've explained previously, when there was the onset of COVID, the state of Connecticut provided a number of devices to all districts in Connecticut including Griswold, and this new fleet of Chromebooks, instead of having a 4-year life, this would have a, hopefully ideally, up to 8 years of life. And then that way there, we could make a plan so as not to have a big ask as such to replenish the fleet. The original Chromebooks that we received from the state of Connecticut only had a 4-year lifespan.
Discussion.
Absolutely.
You've heard me before, and I'm just gonna repeat it. I don't believe that this type of expense belongs in the capital improvements budget. We've been fairly flexible in the past, but this is one of those expenses that is essentially a pseudo teaching aid. It belongs in the Board of Ed budget. If they were changing over their computer system in the main office, that's a whole different situation. I just think that we're diluting the capital improvements category, and I don't believe it should be there, and that's why I voted for it to be removed before. I think we're going down a slippery slope, and we will regret it in future years.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Absolutely.
I understand what you're saying. However, to that point, the Board of Ed put that in the capital because it met the requirements of capital at the time.
Obviously, we
believe-
don't have a good definition of
And I
capital
believe,
and the capital
Gail,
improvement.
Gail, just let him
believe-
finish, and I'll give you an opportunity.
I believe until that definition is changed, that they are meeting the requirements to have it in the capital fund. So you can't hold it against them that they met the requirements and were able to put it in there according to the capital committee. Now, once those are changed, then we won't be going down that slippery slope because we will have, this has been identified as a deficiency and we can address that in the future, so it doesn't become a slippery slope.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
So that's my thought on it. That's why I think we should cover it.
Gail, I'm
just-
gonna allow you to reply or respond, but I
Okay.
don't want there to be a
Okay.
continued
I
back
just
and
wanna
forth. We
say
know what
that-
your position is, and we'll know what your
Yes,
position is.
capital committee functions as an advisory committee to this board, but this board has the final say on all of their line items, including how they determine what's eligible and not eligible. We have tried very hard because the capital committee works so hard to give them as much autonomy as possible. But I really truly believe that we are going down a slippery slope here for future. That's gonna harm the initial purpose of the capital improvements committee, which were vehicles and roads and equipment in our buildings. And if this gets put back in, I truly regret making the motion last meeting about putting money back into the Board of Ed budget. Mistake I won't repeat.
Mr. Chairman,
Gary?
I was on the capital improvement who asked the initial question on what that line item and how long it's been in there. And was informed that it was a gradual thing and something like that, the terms. And I asked that question when I came to the board that I thought it was an instructional thing that should be in the Board of Education's budget, only because of what it's used for on a daily basis. I agree with what Gail said, that's how I feel, and that's my opinion.
Any further discussion? So hearing none, we're going to vote on the motion to reinstate $132,500 for Chromebooks into the capital budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion fails.
Matt, were you for or against?
Against.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
I would like to propose that we put into the Board of Education budget sum of 142,500,
142.
142,500.
Okay, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay.
I do that because of the extra $250,000 that they're bringing, that they're proposed to bring in. And to not put some of that back into the school district, I think would be a very poor idea on our part.
Okay, do we have a second? Do we have a second? Going once, going twice. Do we have a second? Okay, that motion fails. If Phil got a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Gary?
I would make a motion that we reinstate $5,000 for the first selectman. We all have that piece of paper, and what the selectman's salary is in Eastern Connecticut with, the population. We are very much under what, very much playing field than some of the area towns. And I'll agree with Gail that the responsibility of the first selectman is great.
So Gary, we have not cut that as of yet, so that was a proposal by the
Okay.
Board of Selectmen to cut it, but we would need to take official action for that to happen, so. So you want to rescind that?
Yeah, obviously.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay.
Did we ever get, we heard a lot of information at prior meetings, special meetings about how the chemicals and materials that they put on roads nowadays deteriorates the undercarriage of all of our vehicles at a much faster and more dangerous level. Did we ever get a new bid on that washer?
We
Yes,
did.
yeah.
We
It's in-
did.
It is in the packet.
I'm sorry. What was it, please?
Well, there was information on a few different ones that have gone out to bid.
Yeah.
The one from the town of Berlin, the low bid was about almost $1,100,000.
Wow.
And on top of that, we need to find a place to put it.
Right, building. Was that gonna be one of those rounded buildings or a true?
I
stick
don't know,
build?
Todd would know better on that.
Todd, is that correct? We don't have a home for that any longer?
No, can I give a little background?
Absolutely.
So many years ago, when we were looking at this, we were also looking at a maintenance building for the school for their vehicles incorporated with this. So it was kind of a twofold project back then. The wash rack itself was about $250,000 at that time without the building, but we were talking about a maintenance building to store equipment in. So we were trying to put it on the school campus, and we had 2 or 3 locations. They were telling us there were wetlands, and I believe we did take boundaries to do a feasibility study on the campus on where that building would be placed. We'd have to go back and look at that. I don't recall off the top of my head where it is. I want to say something. We're trying to accommodate storage for them and the wash rack at the same
how much is in that line item now?
75,000.
Can I ask a question of the, question for the capital improvement? Do you think there would be a benefit in adding, say, 20 or 30,000? Or is that just such a drop in the bucket compared to what it's gonna cost?
I would say, Mr. Vice Chairman, that it's a drop in the bucket. I don't see that. I'd rather see the $20,000 go into one of these 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000
Right,
dollar
right,
things.
right.
Would make more sense, I believe. I'm only speaking for myself. You've got two other members on the committee, on the board with you.
I'd have to agree with you.
Yeah. So is that something for bonding in the future?
Probably would.
Package it with a few other projects? Okay,
So Eric, refresh my memory. Exchange account. Did we cut that at our last meeting, correct?
Yeah, he's kind of from 70 to 60.
So it might not be a bad idea for us to put a little bit more money back into that
That's a good-
exchange account. And I'm just thinking about how many line items were over this year.
Right.
And
right,
inflation, the prices aren't going down. They continue to rise. And I'm thinking that, we cut the recruitment and retention by, $14,000, I think it was, or $15,000 at that last meeting. And I want to make sure that we have sufficient monies in that exchange account to cover not only what we might have, but cost overruns, but in the event that volunteerism is in fact where it is predicted to be, that there is the proper monies there that we can then utilize to take the appropriate action.
Eric, we're still at 1.44, correct? Was that last?
Correct.
You said $20,000.
I didn't have a dollar value. I just thought that we should put some money, back in there.
10.
10.
I think that it should be more than 10 personally, because I thought that we shouldn't have cut it.
I'll make a
To begin
motion. Yeah, $20,000.
I'll second that motion.
So your motion was what, Gary?
20,000.
And, okay. Discussion. Go ahead, Matt.
That account can be used for any overruns that we would have, say, fire truck, payloader tires, that we know some of those bids are probably 6 months
Right.
old.
Right.
Eric, are you comfortable with 20,000, with an
Yeah.
additional 20,000 that should cover based on some of the scenarios we've just described?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Eric, what is the account number?
It is, the department is 7101. The account number is 5850.
What's our number now, please?
But I would put it at 80. It was currently at 60.
No,
Mill rate.
mill
The
rate.
mill rate would go up to 1.47 mill increase.
Okay, any further discussion on this motion? And then we're gonna vote all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Since we're below the 1.5 that most want, I would like to make a motion that we put back in the $1,000 to health and safety, which is 1201-5215 line number.
What number was that, please?
1201 5215. And safety? Request for $1,000.
And could you refresh my recollection on that? What was that for?
We have members of the committee here.
Richard, Chair?
I wrote down that it was safety kits to give out for automobiles.
They have a few different ideas, but they can answer it.
Okay, Rich, I'm gonna call on you to answer that. You're the chair of the committee, correct?
Co-chair,
Co-chair? Okay.
vice chair, co-chair, some chair.
Who is the chair?
It's mainly communications, we're looking at putting a website up to communicate public health and safety in the community, as well as paper communications, maybe booths at some town events. Because right now, we're focusing on anti-suicide, drug overdoses and stuff, CPR, first aid in public, and we're, basically all expenditures are coming out of our pockets, so that's basically what it's for.
So this is for a website,
Partner.
okay? And what's the rest of it for? For,
Paper, supplies, merchandise to hand out to the public, a little bit, maybe trinkets,
what kind of merchandise?
providing information to the public on suicide prevention, overdose prevention.
How do you get it out to the public? How do you get you said materials to get out to the public, other than a website, how do you get the the materials to the
Go
public?
events, have a tent set up, go to events. We provide classes to the public. So I'll give you a little background on that. I did a lot of first aid classes in town, suicide prevention, QPR class, and all those expenditures literally came out of my pocket. So basically, it's to prevent the members, they're already volunteering their time, and we don't want them having to basically pay for everything out of their pocket. So it's, but honestly, $1,000 is not enough. That's just a start, so.
Do you have a second on this yet?
I'll second that motion.
Okay,
After hearing the
sorry.
gentleman.
We were having the discussion
Yeah.
before the second.
No, actually, you were just looking for clarification as part
Oh,
of.
okay. If it were to open up classes for CPR to any residents and to have CPR classes for anyone who wanted to enroll, I'd be in favor of it. But if it's for just people on your committee, I'd like to see something like CPR classes for,
It's for the public.
He said, so he's gonna, he
For the
would have,
public.
say, a booth out there right now where everybody walked in, I think, to actually.
they could
Talk to people.
enroll.
What he's saying is that
Yeah,
now what they do is take money out of their own pocket to
Right.
give the supplies to do the stuff.
Okay,
So
okay,
instead of doing
Like
that,
I've already done classes for all the town employees in town got done, that was all out of my pocket. We did
Okay.
a Couple classes for the public at Dewey City Fire Department, that was out of my pocket, so.
That's a good
human
idea.
trafficking Classes was all out of my pocket. Other members have supplied the food for those classes out of their pocket, so that's what we basically don't want to have, keep reoccurring.
okay. I guess I was misinformed. I thought you were gonna put safety, emergency kits for automobiles and hand them out at, Spooktopia
That
or
was
something like
one
that.
Possible aspect,
Yeah.
and they're being donated now. We went out and got grants from other places and had it donated.
That's what you say, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. If what you say is true, and it's all
I'm not
volunteers.
lying.
I didn't mean to say that you were lying.
Yeah,
It's just a figure of speech, okay? So what you're saying is true, and they are taking money out of the pockets and they're all volunteers. I think I would support to, put that back in the budget.
So in only because you said so much and where things were being done in venues, this would be for trainings for the community at large, not for trainings for like, fire department personnel or
No, not
whatnot.
at all.
That's separate.
Totally separate.
Yeah.
Online.
Yeah.
that would be a great community service, so that anybody who wanted to have a CPR course could
Already
sign
taken
up.
place. It's happened a bunch of times already, so.
That would be excellent.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to hear how, like next year, I'd love to hear the feedback from where you are, so maybe this is something that could grow.
Sure.
We're gonna vote all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a statement to this gentleman here?
What, who?
Health
To
and
Rich?
safety.
To Rich, yes.
To Rich. I'd love to see in your future plans about talking about offering the boat safety. We have Patchogue Pond. We have a lot of boaters that don't know the rules of the road on Patchogue Pond. And I think if you could offer a boating safety course, the certification course, as part of your 2 or 3 year plan, that would be wonderful.
I'll bring it to the committee. I know that goes to the DEP, but I'll bring it to the
Okay,
committee.
thank you.
Question, Mr. Chairman, there was something I jotted down that you had also spoke about in the beginning that was an add-in, but I must have missed it because I didn't hear us go over it. Wrote a bunch of numbers. Was there something else that we missed?
I have nothing, no,
Nothing?
everything there has been checked off. No, I had a balance that was kind of unaccounted for that I didn't really have anything.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. Yeah, I wrote it down, okay.
Do you have anything further?
I'm all set. Everything's checked off.
Melissa?
Mark, you have anything? Gary,
I'm all set.
Gail,
So,
Tom,
No,
Rob?
Where are we sit right now?
1.47 mil increase.
I'm good.
You're good? Okay, Matt?
Good.
So,
motion to adjourn?
no, no, we're not there yet, no. No, Eric, do you have the, do you have the 2 numbers that we need for the motion to send it to selectmen in the verbiage? for
Yes,
them?
general government budget is 10,465,354. Board of Education budget is 31,842,424.
Okay, so you need a motion to include those 2 items, those 2 numbers, explaining what they are to be sent to selectmen for town meeting, correct? That's what needs to be included in the motion.
Right.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we send to the Board of Selectmen recommendation for the general budget of 10,465,354 and Board of Ed budget of 31,842,424
For the purpose of
for
town
the
meeting.
purpose of town meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna vote, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
All right, now, Gail.
Now, Gail, you're good.
Can I do it?
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, we are adjourned.
Rules. Page 6.